the order of service, the link will be listed in the chat. Our guest minister today is Reverend Joanna Lubkin. Reverend Joanna is deeply connected to a number of Unitarian Universalist communities in the Boston area. She serves as the half-time minister at All Souls Church in Braintree, is a communications and digital ministry associate at First Church in Jamaica Plain, and is the worship arts lead at the Sanctuary, Boston. She's a member and an affiliated community minister at Arlington Street Church in Boston. The chalice is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. If you have a chalice, now is the moment to grab that and a match. Our chalice lighting marks the beginning of our service. I will light mine and share a reading. Then I invite you to light yours if you have one. And if you like, you may post the name of the street in the chat where the chalice is lit. We light our flaming chalice with words from Leslie Takahashi. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share.
Good morning. I'm so delighted to be with you all. Thank you for welcoming me from Boston to you all in Rhode Island. Our opening words this morning are from Reverend Teresa Inez Soto, who serves our congregation in Oakland, California. I know that you are hungry for justice, and sometimes when you fail, it feels like the times when you open the refrigerator door, look inside, and close it, nothing having met your appetite. But there is always trying again. There is the fact that one just act is the beginning, and together we can build another. The gnawing hunger for a different future is one that we feed in the present. Your diligence, your tenacity, your willingness to learn, not just know, but also do. Hunger shaping how you nourish, feeding one another with the long spoons of your compassion until you're strong enough to feed the part of the world that you can reach. I invite you to join us now in singing our opening hymn, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. Our hymn comes to us from the musicians of the First Unitarian Church of Baltimore.
Now let us join together in our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service our mission. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another.
With all of these joys and sorrows and hopes and prayers on our heart, I invite you to join me in a time of prayer and meditation as we lift up both these joys and sorrows and also name and commemorate having spent one full year apart. I invite you to settle in your seat or in your standing, however you are. Take a fuller breath. Holy One, as of this week, we have spent one full year apart in this pandemic. We pause this morning to name and to lift up the jumble of feelings that we hold. We grieve for those that we have lost, whether COVID took them or whether the pandemic took away our chances to be together to mourn their loss. We say their names now, whether quietly to ourselves or adding them in the chat if you'd like. We'll pause for a moment to hold their memories in our hearts. We hold in our prayers all those who are recovering from COVID and those long haulers who are dealing with the lasting effects of this illness. We hold in love all those who have lost work during this pandemic, those whose schooling has been interrupted, those who struggle to parent while working from home, those frontline workers who are at risk every day, and those who feel the ache of isolation and loneliness. We think of all of the occasions, holidays, and celebrations that we missed this year. We think of the last time we may have sung together in a sanctuary, not knowing how long it would be until we would be able to safely do so again. And we also give thanks for the gifts that we have found amid the loss and the distance. Our communities have been so creative, so courageous, and so caring, finding ways to stay connected, being willing to try new ways of gathering, steadfastly reaching out to one another. We give thanks for the ways we've been able to grow the boundaries of our communities beyond geography, welcoming in those dear ones from far away. And we give thanks for the human miracle of 3 vaccines making their way to us in less than a year. Each person given immunity, a cause for celebration and relief. Holy One, source of resilience, help us to hold on through whatever may yet come. May we be resolute of heart as we mask up, as we continue to care for each other by keeping a distance, knowing it to be an act of love. May we be open and curious about the possibilities that unfold before us, seeing the ways that we can get not just back to normal, but forward to better. May we measure this year in love. In the spirit of prayer, meditation, and love, let us be together in a few moments of sacred silence. So may it be, and amen.
Here at Westminster, we share are offering every month with a different organization that shares our values or our mission. Our March Share the Plate is Youth Pride Rhode Island. Youth Pride is dedicated to meeting the unique needs of youth and young adults who identify with the LGBTQAI community by working to end the homophobic and transphobic environments in which they live, work, and play. Youth Pride RI provides a safe space for youth to connect with others and express their sexual and gender identities, as well as discuss issues such as immigration, substance abuse, domestic violence, HIV testing, and other health resources, and legal advice. In addition, they provide a variety of other needed services, such as assistance with application for subsidized housing, attaining a GED, transportation to appointments, explaining government benefits, connecting members to mental health resources, and providing information on food pantries and hot meal sites. To donate, please go to the link being posted in the chat. And thank you to Nonetta for the wonderful music. Today's reading is entitled There is an Edge, or it might be entitled Ode to Radical Imagination by Adrienne Marie Brown. There is an edge beyond which we cannot grasp the scale of our universe. That border, that outer boundary is imagination, the only known edge of existence, the only one we can prove by universal experience. We can imagine so much. We can imagine only so much. If perhaps it is a function of our collective minds, a dream of our endless nights, then there will be abundance so long as we can imagine it. Abundance on earth, if we can imagine it, or abundance of earths, a sphere for every tribe and every combination. And to have it all we need to do is remember there is an edge and grow our dreams beyond it.
Thank you, Al, for sharing that reading. Before the pandemic, a bunch of my minister friends got together and formed a book group. I really enjoy thinking about what texts the average person thinks that ministers would gather to study together. The Bible, some classic and deep work of theology? No, it is an apocalypse book club, as in stories about the destruction of the world. Friends had invited me to join, and I shivered at the thought. I'd reply, I don't want to spend my free time reading about major global catastrophes. It is depressing and scary enough with our own destruction and impending disasters out there. I'd rather escape into more uplifting fiction. This was before the pandemic. Maybe you felt similarly. But slowly, they have changed my mind. That's exactly why we have this book group, they'd respond. Because the world is being destroyed and there are impending disasters. And we're scared. Reading post-apocalyptic and dystopian fiction offers an escape from denial. It gives us a chance to face the undercurrent of anxiety and despair that we may feel about what's to come, and to do it within the safety net of fiction. When we talk about this fictional world, we have a safe vantage point, and our imaginations are sparked. And most importantly, it gives us a way, sometimes a fun way, to imagine our own solutions to the problems that our characters face. This makes sense to me. The author James Baldwin said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Solutions and hope can only come when we are willing to engage and to imagine. We know that we are at a turning point in our own story, and that the massive disruption that the COVID pandemic has caused gives us the opportunity to imagine and enact a different future. So my question is, what does the future that we hope for look like? There's a particular genre that has been speaking to me, which doesn't just dwell on the destroyed world or the suffering society. These stories imagine how humans might not just survive perilous times, but thrive. These works of speculative fiction offer us a vision of the world as it could be. They effectively say, change is coming, but we can make it through. Another world is possible. Here are two examples. Emily St. John Mandel's 2014 novel called Station 11 enters us into a post-apocalyptic world where the surviving humans live in small, isolated settlements. Our protagonists, though, are in a touring symphony. They travel from settlement to settlement, performing orchestral music and Shakespeare plays. In the wake of a global tragedy from a pandemic, when scrappy survivors eke out a living, this group that is more like a family reminds them what they are living for. Their motto, because survival is insufficient. I've also been inspired by an earlier work from the 90s called The Fifth Sacred Thing by the neo-pagan author Starhawk. It can also help us see what's possible in the wake of destruction. After a different global societal collapse, in this novel, one community remakes their world into a kind of hippie ecotopia in the San Francisco area, because of course, in San Francisco. The streets have been ripped up and turned to gardens. Food and clean water is available to everyone. No one lacks for medical care. And the city's defense council consists of 9 elderly women who listen and dream. When a fundamentalist totalitarian force tries to invade and sack their resources, its residents refuse to use violence and refuse to give up their vision of a just and cooperative world. Instead, they say to each of the soldiers, "There is a place set for you at our table if you will choose to join us." In traditional religious terms, this is the work of prophets. In Christianity, for example, the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven has evoked a vision of a peaceful, loving world that we may strive for. In a way, a kind of heaven on earth. Prophets have cried out wake-up calls, warning people what could happen if they don't change their destructive ways. But they also call out what could be possible and how beautiful the world could be. Like the prophet Isaiah, who's also sacred in Judaism, describes a future where swords shall be turned into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks, where nations will no longer study war. This is a kind of radical imagination. In their book on radical imagination, Alex Kushnabis and Max Haven describe the concept this way. Radical imagination is the ability to imagine the world, life, and social institutions not as they are, but as they might otherwise be. It is the courage and the intelligence to recognize that the world can and should be changed. The radical imagination is not just about dreaming of different futures. It's about bringing those possibilities back from the future to work on in the present, to inspire action and new forms of solidarity today. The incredible writer and social justice facilitator, whose poem that we heard as our reading, Adrienne Marie Brown, invites us to imagine beyond our fears. She writes, "We must imagine new worlds that transition ideologies and norms so that no one else sees Black people as murderers or brown people as terrorists and aliens, but all of us as potential cultural and economic innovators. This is a time travel exercise for the heart," she says. This is collaborative ideation. What are the ideas that will liberate all of us? Science fiction and speculative fiction, then, are simply ways to practice the future together. Whenever we try to envision a world without violence, a cooperative world, we are engaging in speculative fiction. This is exactly the kind of thing we do in our spiritual communities. Practice futures together. Practice justice together, living into new stories. It is our right and our responsibility to create a new world. In my family, the way that we practiced this kind of envisioning new worlds was through the television show Star Trek. I seriously only exist because of Star Trek. My parents met at Trek conventions in the 70s because they both wrote fan fiction about Star Trek characters. So I come by this honestly. Our family was fully immersed in this world. Its quotes, its characters, its jokes, and its idea of a better future. Here's a small example. So before becoming a Unitarian Universalist minister, I was a rabbinical student, raised Jewish, studying to be a rabbi, and I started attending UU services at Arlington Street Church. My Jewish mother had an understandably tough time wrapping her head around it. I'd call her on Sunday afternoons and say I was driving home from church to hear, "You're driving home from where? You're going to a church?" My response is, "It's not that kind of a church." It did little to reassure her. She finally came to a service with me on a Sunday when she was in town to see me sing with the choir at Arlington Street. I went over to her after the service and I asked with some trepidation, "So, what did you think?" She smiled at me with some relief and said, "It's Iddick. I get it now." For those of you who are uninitiated, Iddick is an acronym for infinite diversity in infinite combinations. It is, unsurprisingly, a Star Trek thing. Infinite diversity in infinite combinations is the basis of Vulcan philosophy and has been a concept that has been an important theme in my mother's own writing. In attending a UU service, my mother saw a real-life human community living out these Vulcan values, celebrating the differences between us, being open to learning from all of the many truths in the universe. She saw parents and toddlers, elder lesbian couples and non-binary teens, mystics and atheist scientists, folks from a wide array of cultural backgrounds and racial identities, all coming together on their own searches for truth and meaning. After that day, I got no more grief for going to church, and she likes to come with me. This isn't an accident or an unintended side effect of Star Trek. It is a work of radical imagination, a way of exploring ideas that can liberate all of us. Gene Roddenberry, the creator and producer of Star Trek, wanted to show us the world as it could be. In the turbulent times of the late 1960s, Roddenberry was helping us see what could be beyond the edge of our imagination. He showed us a possibility for a future when we've moved past war and greed, where neighbors are united in a federation of planets, where different races and species serve together as a crew, as a family. Roddenberry described it this way: Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day it begins not just to tolerate, but take a special delight in differences in ideas and differences in life forms. If humanity is to survive, we will have learned to take a delight in the essential differences between people and between cultures. We will learn that differences in ideas and attitudes are a delight, part of life's exciting variety, he says, not something to fear. Sounds to me like what we hope for from Unitarian Universalism. So, my new friends, the hurting world and the impending future need us to awaken our imaginations. What is it that sparks your imagination? What helps you envision the world that could be possible? Is it a sacred text expressing a hope of a peaceful world? A work of fiction that gives you a safety net to imagine new solutions to our challenges? The words of a visionary or a human prophet who helps us move boldly toward a more just world? The radical imagination is not just about dreaming of different futures. It's about bringing those possibilities back from the future to work on in the present, to inspire action and new forms of solidarity today. Change is coming, but we can make it through. Another world is possible. There will be abundance so long as we can imagine it. And together, we can build a new way. So may it be. I invite you to join with me in singing our closing hymn, which is fittingly Building a New Way. This recording comes to us from Foothills Unitarian Church in Fort Collins, Colorado. Let's sing together.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feel every need. We can feel every need. We can feel our every need. Started love that is a seed. We can feel our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Our closing words come to us from the novelist Arundhati Roy. Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. She is on her way. As I extinguish my chalice, we sing together, Carry the Flame.